Good morning, everybody. It's time for morning manna. And this morning, I want you to sit in it. I want you to sit in it. Yes, of course, I'm talking about the election. It's 2 days afterwards, 2 days of the morning after, and I'm still bringing it up because I think it is that important. Now, tomorrow, of course, I'll always do the trailer before my message, and that is called loading. That's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. But this morning, and loading won't have to be the title of the message, but nevertheless, here we go. Is this morning, sit in it. Sit in it. Yes, still dealing with this election. I am, and I need to sit in it. And I might not be the only one. So I raised this as our devotion this morning to help us uh, 2 days after the most remarkable, unbelievable thing has happened in the life of this country, in which not we, but some have elected, America has elected a straight rapist. So, I mean, it's in the facts. But nevertheless, don't want to spend that much time on speaking about that as much as I want you to sit in it this morning. I want you to sit in it this morning. And what does that mean? We're going to get to that. Before I do, though, I got to greet some folk. Good morning, Brother Nesbitt. How are you? Good morning, Dolores, my home girl, my former neighbor. How are you? Good morning, Deacon Joe. How are you? Ella, how are you? Vaughn, how are you on this morning? Ramona, how are you on this morning? Liz, how are you on this morning? CC, how are you doing on this morning? Pamela, how are you? Erica, how are you on this morning? What if you missed last night? Oh my God. That word. Ooh, I did post some clips on my page, so you might want to check some of them out. But it won't do justice to if you weren't there. Or you can always go to New Life Tube One and watch it there. But at any rate, how you doing this morning, Vicky? How are you? Joro, how are you on this morning? Brenda, how are you on this morning? Lena, how are you on this morning? Jacqueline, how are you? Anna, how is everything? Angela, how are you doing on this morning? Carolyn, how are you? Valerie, how are you? Elder Mobley, how are you? Elder Jan, how are you? Francine, how are you? Verena, how are you? Dawn, how are you? Now, if you all could do me a favor, please lift up Pastor Richard. Pastor Richard, is our pastor, our missionary in Monrovia. Right now, he's in Nigeria. Right now, he's in Nigeria, and he's trying to get special medical care, trying to diagnose what's going on with him. But please lift him up, Pastor Richard. Pastor Richard, please want you to pray for him. Good morning, Erica. How are you on this morning? Francine, how are you on this morning? Jay, how are you on this morning? Yeah, last night was awesome. It was some kind of awesome. Lamont, how are you on this morning, man? It's been a minute. You need to come and check us out. Good morning, Minister Sent. How are you on this morning? Let's get into the word on this morning. Sit in it. Sit in it. Sit in what? Well, we're still in the wake 2 days after the stunning election. Now, I can say I'm stunned, but I'm not surprised. I'm stunned because America did what I thought it was going to do, though I prayed and believed otherwise. It did exactly what I thought it was going to do. So let's sit in it. What do you mean by that? The text, the talk, the takeaway, 5 minutes or less. Here we go. 1 Kings 19 and 5. It is Elijah running from um, Jezebel and Ahab. He's running from them. He feels like his life is threatened. And what does he do? 1 Kings 19:5. Enter him. Then he lay down. He sat under the broom tree, some translations, and fell asleep. He sat in it. He sat in it. Sometimes it's not always good to run away from your emotions. He was not. He was running to a place in which he could gather himself. Sometimes it's good to sit in it. It's good to sit in it. You've been at the funeral of a loved one, and people are suggesting that you kind of move on out of your grieving moment. That's not wise. That's not wise. Sometimes you need to sit in it. Three things as to why. When we look at it through the lens of this text, feel what you feel. First thing is to talk, feel what you feel. Understand that feelings cannot rule you. There's no fruit of the feeling. There's a fruit of love, but not in terms of I'm wrapping up everything. The Spirit will help me in this moment of my grief. And can I confess? I'm grieving. I grieve for this country. I really do. I grieve for the choices that this country has made and the message that that sends, that you can do wrong and get away with it. And by the way, you can trash people who you don't like in the process. Yeah. And you can be vindictive as well. Yeah. And you can drop all charges against you while black men go to prison all day long. Yeah. Feel what you feel. Grieve. Second thing is this: you can grieve because God is going to respond with some food. You know, well, in the text, an angel shows up, fixes him a meal. You got to recover physically as well as emotionally. So he fixes him a meal. Story, and I'll come back. In one of my degrees, I went to a certification of how you need to be certified in crisis intervention counseling. In other words, you see people who go and to plane crashes or some tragedies, some school shooting, what have you. And there would be a crisis intervention counseling team. Well, there's certain things that you have to learn to know to do those kinds of things. And one of the things that I learned is what people eat or should be eating post traumatic situation. Should not be sugary things, should not be all of those kinds of snack things, but healthy things, fruit and those vegetables, because it's important that what you eat in the moment of your grief matters most to your recovery. And that's what God sent an angel to feed him some food. Watch what you eat while you sit in it in this moment of grief. Third thing is this. Third thing is this. He moved on to find his way. Well, after he sat in it, remember, he was really sitting in his feelings, trying to gather himself, and then God responded with some food. But in a moment, he got up and he traveled another 40 some miles. Guess what? He was finding his way. From there, he went and he then anointed Elijah and so on to move forward. What's your takeaway this morning? Don't cover up your feelings. Feel what you feel for a minute. Don't cover up your feelings. You're grieving right now. I know I am. Feel what you feel for a minute. Just for a minute. The Lord be with you today. May his face shine upon you and give you peace. This works whether you're grieving the election or not. I'll see you tomorrow morning with more morning manna. And the topic is loading. Loading. Share the manna, don't keep it to yourself.